guys, Steve here from Living Vertical. I want to do a short video to tell you a little bit about the very first leg of my trip out to Minnesota to pick up my Scamp trailer that is going to be my home, my family's home, our base camp, mobile studio, and all that good stuff for the coming years, hopefully. So I made it as far as New York. I drove from Massachusetts to New York, which isn't like a huge distance or anything, but my dad lives here in the house where I grew up, and so I always make it a habit to stop by and see him. He's currently asleep with the radio up really loud, which is how he likes to sleep. This is the room where I spent my formative years. You can see these curtains that literally are older than I am, so these are north of 33 years old. That desk back there that you can see, that desk, my mom actually was refinishing that desk when I was born. On the day that I was born, she was refinishing that desk. And so that's always been sort of a fixture in the place here. And every time I'm coming from east to west or west to east, I always try to stop here in upstate New York, see my dad for a little bit. He always is like, has tons of food that he wants to give me, which is nice. And plus, he keeps my room in fairly similar condition to the way that it was when I was here. And I have some of my climbing stuff. I have a bunch of ropes that he lets me store in the closet, so that this way when I always have stuff here when I'm in transition, so that if I need it, I can access it. Plus, I have pretty much every residence that I've lived in for the last 17 years. I have insulin there, so I have like old insulin in my dad's fridge, but I'd use it if I had to. Sometimes I have used it in the past, but because I don't throw out insulin unless it's done. But if you have questions about that, feel free to drop a comment. But I'm not going to go into detail in this video. Anyways, today is day one of probably 5 days. So I'm traveling by myself out to Minnesota to pick up the trailer. Stefanie and the baby are going to be flying out on their own because driving out through this Arctic blast or whatever they're calling it that's going to be coming down through the Midwest, I was pretty unpsyched about having my wife and daughter in the car, and kind of risking their safety and comfort really more than anything, I think, in order to get out there. So I have 2 days to get from here to Minnesota to meet the guys that are going to hook me up with the trailer. And then I have 2 days to get from Minnesota down to St. George, which is where I'm picking Stefanie up. They're flying in on Sunday. So I'm going to have to be I'm going to have to make pretty good time, drive pretty solidly. To be honest, I'm a little bit concerned about, what's going to happen with the weather because everybody's talking about snow and ice and all kinds of nasty stuff happening with that over the next few days. And my car is loaded down pretty good. Pretty solid load there, but it's not too bad. It's pretty comfortable. I was able to pick up a couple of sleeping bags that I had stashed here, so I should have plenty of high quality down. And as long as the battery doesn't crap out on the car, I feel pretty good about getting to Minnesota and then hopefully getting out of that really cold weather as soon as possible, to get back down, into the lower portions of the Midwest. I mean, even Denver, I was looking at that, the weather looks halfway decent. Right now in Minnesota, it's like negative 7, -8 degrees. And of course, that's not with wind chill factored in. So that would be pretty rough, having a car break down or even having to sleep in the car overnight, which is typically the way that I do when I travel. I don't know, I've just never been in the habit of sleeping in hotels or motels. I like sleeping in my car. It just feels weird to pay money to, get out of the car for 5 or 6 hours and knock out and then get back on the road. So I always just pull off and sleep in rest areas or, wherever I can find a spot. And so that obviously is compromised when it's so cold out that, you kind of have to keep the car running constantly. So I'm going to see what I can do with a whole bunch of sleeping bags and, see if we can't make it work. I feel like You know, there are guys that do this kind of stuff in the mountains at similar types of temperatures and with altitude and a whole bunch of other stuff factored in, and they can't turn on any sort of heat whatsoever. So I figure if you know that's viable, then it should be doable for me as I go from here in a push. I'm gonna go one straight push from here in upstate New York to Minnesota. So I'm gonna catch as much of this as I can. I'm gonna record it. Editing this stuff, like I said, on my phone. I'm not putting this stuff. This isn't anything fancy at this point, but I just want to give you a little bit of a snippet of kind of like what's going on my journey, and I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoy what we're doing and you're curious to see how this is all going to pan out, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you want to connect with us on social media, see stuff that's behind the scenes, visit livingvertical.org.